All right, folks, look, I can make a promise right off the bat. Donald Trump and his MAGA fans are not going to like this video. It's going to shake up their narrative just a little bit, but who cares what Donald Trump wants? This is an important story that we need to talk about whether MAGA likes it or not. So look, to give you some context, I just did a deep dive on a significant story that came out recently about Donald Trump. It's probably one you've seen by now, but I just discovered yet another connection to Jeffrey Epstein. That's right, not only is Donald Trump connected, not only are members of his administration connected, but now a secret donor who recently sent over $100 million to Trump has his own connections to Jeffrey Epstein. So look, we're going to get into this story. We're going to expose it all. But before I do so, make sure to subscribe to the channel down below. It goes an incredibly long way. Drop a like on the video, comment, let me know what you think about this story. You guys have been so amazing since Donald Trump and JD Vance attacked me on social media. The support means the world to know that you guys have my back. But look, without further ado, I don't want to waste any more time. Let's get into this story because it's truly insane. So you might have seen this article recently that a secret donor, a secret billionaire, gave $130 million to Donald Trump and the federal government to pay troops while the government is shut down. It's raising a lot of alarms because somebody essentially donating to the federal government is not only prohibited by law, but it's like, who is this secret donor and why are they giving Donald Trump all of this money? Money that won't even cover a fraction of the salaries necessary for troops. Well, now we've discovered that the man behind it is Timothy Mellon. This is the photo that the New York Times used. It's an outdated photo of him. I'm going to show you a new photo of him so you can see what he actually looks like. But this guy, Timothy Mellon, is the man who sent all of this money to Donald Trump. And that makes the Epstein connection I'm about to expose even weirder. But look, let's just quickly go through this article very briefly. So it was Timothy Mellon, a reclusive billionaire and a major financial backer of Donald Trump, who is the anonymous private donor. Trump announced the donation on Thursday night, but initially he declined to name the person who provided the funds, only calling him a patriot and a friend. And that's a significant detail that you should remember as we go forward. Quote, it remains unclear how far the donation will go toward covering the salaries of more than 1.3 million troops who make up the active duty military. According to the Congressional Budget Office, the Trump administration's 2025 budget requested about $600 billion in total military compensation. A $130 million donation would equal about $100 a service member, so it's not going to go very far. Mr. Mellon, a wealthy banking heir and railroad magnate, is a longtime backer of Trump and gave tens of millions of dollars to groups supporting the president's campaign last year. He also made a $50 million donation to a super PAC supporting Trump, which was one of the largest single contributions ever disclosed. He's also the grandson of former Treasury Secretary Andrew W. Mellon. He was a prominent Republican donor. Mr. Mellon was not, I should say, a prominent Republican donor until Trump was elected. But in recent years, he's poured hundreds of millions of dollars into supporting Trump. He lives in Wyoming. He keeps a low profile. He supports RFK Jr. And just to point out before we move on, this donation appears to be a violation of the law, the Anti-Deficiency Act, which prohibits federal agencies from spending money in excess of congressional appropriations or from accepting voluntary services. So not only is it illegal, but it's incredibly suspicious. And I just want to point out that he's just not like some random Trump backer. He's not just somebody who gave $50 million to Trump's PAC. He had $197 million, $200 million donated to Donald Trump in the 2024 election cycle. So this guy is like number one, according to the Washington Post, in terms of donations. He's a big Republican donor. And now he appears to be giving an additional $130 million donation to Donald Trump. I did say I'd show you an updated photo of him. Here's Timothy Mellon, but that's him right now, aside from the outdated photo you saw in the New York Times. Here's the Epstein connection. Here's where this story gets really weird. Now we know that he's a wealthy billionaire, lives in Wyoming. He's kind of reclusive, doesn't do a lot of media. He obviously has donated a lot of money to Donald Trump. But here are the Epstein flight logs. You'll see we're on page 54 of them. These are the documents that were released in the trial against Ghislaine Maxwell. It's not like Donald Trump released these willingly or anything like that. These documents were used against Ghislaine Maxwell. We're on page 54. And if you zoom in, what does that say right there? You can see 1090 and 1091, J.E. and Paul Mellon, the father of Timothy Mellon. The father of Timothy Mellon flew on Epstein's private jet at least twice. At least. You can see under 1090, it's listed as J.E., which stands for Jeffrey Epstein, then Paul Mellon, and then it reads two females. On 1091, it says the exact same thing. Jeffrey Epstein, Paul Mellon, two females. So not only did he fly on Epstein's jet multiple times, but he did so with unidentified women on the jet. Now, I will say there's been no accusation of wrongdoing against Paul Mellon. He's not living anymore. So that's one of the big reasons. But there's no allegation of wrongdoing. It's just interesting that this guy has appeared in what we have of the Epstein files. He also happens to be the father of one of Donald Trump's biggest donors. Very strange stuff. So he flew on Epstein's jet, but the story gets even weirder. Even weirder. We learned earlier this month, October of 2025, that the Bank of America, but also BNY, has been sued over alleged financial ties to Jeffrey Epstein. What does BNY stand for? Bank of New York Mellon. One of the banks that comes from the Mellon family, this huge financial conglomerate. They have railroads, they have banks, big business family, right? That bank has now been sued by a woman who says she was abused by Jeffrey Epstein and has sued Bank of America and the Bank of New York Mellon Wednesday, alleging the banks knowingly provided financial services that enabled his sex trafficking operation for years. So just to take a quick time out on the play here, to sum up everything we know, this guy who just sent a random donation to Donald Trump for $130 million, his father knew Epstein, flew on his plane with women, and their bank is now also being sued by a woman who was abused by Epstein, alleging that these banks knew of the abuse and helped finance it, or at least help him run his operation. If that's not terrifying and kind of strange and eyebrow raising, I really don't know what is. I really don't know what is. And this is also something to keep in mind as we're going through this story. Right now, the Republicans are still blocking the release of the Epstein files. Rep-elect Adelita Grijalva, she was elected about a month ago, I believe, to Arizona's 7th congressional district. She won overwhelmingly. She has still not been sworn in. Why? Because she would be the 218th vote necessary to demand the release of all the Epstein files. When she gets in and signs on to the discharge petition, that's it. The files are coming out. But Mike Johnson and the Republicans have blocked her from being sworn in. Blocked her. And the final point I want to make in all of this, aside from the weird Epstein connection that this guy has, the strange illegal donation, the Republicans not swearing in Adelita Grijalva, the mainstream media is failing us. And this is not something I say lightly. It's something I try to never say because it sounds very Trumpian. But I'm there now. I'm there in the sense that mainstream media is failing us. We just learned that during a DC trip last week, the CNN CEO made a visit to the White House. A visit to the White House where he promoted the network's new streamer. Staffers were taken aback the next morning when he urged them to ease up on the East Wing renovation coverage. See, when Donald Trump says a critique of the mainstream media, he's lying. He says, oh, they report fake news because they're mean against me. When I say this, it's because we have heads of major networks going to the White House, bending the knee to Donald Trump. They're not covering anything we just went over. This weird connection to Jeffrey Epstein, CNN's not talking about it. Mainstream media is not talking about it. It's a complete failure and capitulation to this wannabe dictator. So if they won't do it, I'll do it. I'll do it. We'll do it here. We'll continue to push for these stories, for the release of the Epstein files, and we'll continue to expose these very weird connections we just saw. So look, I mean, there's so much that we just covered in this video. It's genuinely crazy. It's a lot of information to digest. So please let me know what you think in the comments of this story. Make sure to drop a like on the video as well. It really does go an incredibly long way. Make sure to subscribe as well, because again, if mainstream media is not going to do it, we'll do it right here. I appreciate you so very much. Have an amazing rest of your day, and we will talk soon.